Can I just say that I absolutely hate moving? Hello and welcome. If you're new here, my name is Justin. I make videos where I go through some aspect of my budgeting process. As you can see, I have some money in my ready to assign. This is my latest paycheck. So in a second or in a couple minutes, we'll go ahead and get to allocating that. I'll put a timestamp. If you don't want to kind of watch this intro, you can jump to when I start budgeting. But the last week and a half, 2 weeks, a lot has changed. Obviously, I moved into my new apartment, moved in. I've got stuff everywhere, boxes and just loose stuff. So I'm not fully moved in, but the rest of this week, I will probably focus on moving in, unpacking, and getting settled. Like I said, the backdrop is very similar to my old apartment. The kitchen is kind of flopped backwards. So the fridge used to be over here. Now it's over here. I don't have a slider, like a glass sliding door on this wall to go into the backyard. I just have a regular standard door. The living room is much smaller than my old apartment. So things seem really crammed, but I'll get used to it. The bedroom is a little bit smaller as well. I don't spend a ton of time in there, conscious time in there, so I don't really care. It fits my bed, which I made a terrible decision with the bed that I purchased 4 years ago. This thing is a queen size bed. It is almost 16 inches thick. So I'm pretty sure it weighs a lot more than I do. So to move it around is an ordeal. It's a nightmare. I think the next time I move, I'm either going to get rid of that bed and get a smaller bed. Smaller as in like not 16 inches thick, but either that or I'll just pay for movers, because moving the couch and the bed on my own was not fun at all. I've made some changes to my budget. I shifted some money around, a couple $100 here and there. From my moving fund, I had $211 left over. I used that to purchase a water machine, which is just off camera over here by these bags. The water machine was $189. And then once I bought the 2 5-gallon jugs, it was over $200. The reason it was so expensive is because it's a bottom feeding water machine instead of a top feeder. I've had a water machine in the past. It's actually in my storage unit in Oregon. I hated picking up the 5-gallon jugs and trying to pierce the cap on the plastic point, which is not very sharp at all. So to have a bottom feed water machine makes it so much easier to just slide the 5-gallon jug in. It works on a water pump, so it's great. The only thing I don't like is it has to be plugged in to activate and kind of work the pump. It requires electricity, so it might be a little bit of an electric pull, but maybe not so much. The other things that I purchased and moved money around was this TV stand. So in my old apartment, my TV was mounted on the wall. To mount the TV mount to the wall, to get the TV up there and down is really a 2-person job. And I live alone, and my dog doesn't have posable thumbs, so he can't help even if I asked him to. So I elected to get a TV stand that sits on the ground, to make it easier to move my TV if I need to. So it gives me a little extra storage. There's 6 cubbies there. So I'm happy with that. I also added some items to my wish list: a backyard trash can, a backyard canopy, and a new phone. So more than likely in the next month, I will probably get a new phone, even if it's not funded. The reason being is because I have a phone that is almost 9 years old. The operating system has been obsolete for a couple years, so much so that some of the apps that I use on a regular basis have stopped working completely because they no longer support the software version that my phone has because it's so old. A couple of my financial institution apps don't work anymore. And then a couple of the other apps that I use on a regular basis don't work either. So I'm going to wait until the end of the month, end of February, when the Galaxy S26 is publicly released. I will kind of do my research on that phone and see if it's worth getting or if I just get the S25, which is a year old. But in the next month, I will probably have a new phone, and then I will just pay the payment on it in addition to my, you know, whatever I pay monthly for my phone service. However, the backyard trash can and the backyard canopy, I probably won't get until I fund those. I would like to get the backyard canopy before the summer because my backyard is in a different orientation now, and so it gets more sun, like more direct sun than my old apartment, which means it'll be that much hotter in the summer and basically no shade. And so I want to get like a fully enclosed canopy that keeps bugs out if I want to keep the door open, but also gives him, my dog, a bunch of shade, and me as well if I want to go out there. So those are the things that have changed in my budget. You can see my credit cards are kind of getting up there. I have elected to pay my payments on the statement date and automate that. So my credit cards haven't been paid for a couple weeks, waiting for February 16th to roll around. But yeah, everything is funded, so I'm not in debt. You don't have to worry about that. So with that said, let me go ahead and get out of the way, and we will start budgeting my paycheck. So the first thing I take care of is my rent for the next month. However, how I'm going to handle that is going to be a little bit different because, and I'm not going to say anything if you don't, my apartment complex made a mistake on my rent credits, which means I won't have to pay rent for a little bit longer than I anticipated. So the mistake that they made is instead of giving me a credit for 2 months free because I moved in before the end of January, they actually gave me a 4-month credit. So what I think happened is the first 2-month credit that they gave me was a manual credit. Somebody at the office applied to my account. And then when I logged in on February 1st to kind of see how much of that credit was taken up with my February rent, I noticed that they applied a second 2-month credit. And I think that second 2-month credit was applied by the system, not somebody at the office, because I don't think they would have applied it twice if a human did it. So I'm not going to tell them. I'm just going to take that credit and run with it. However, I will anticipate that at some point they will notice, maybe. And so for the first couple months, I will be setting my rent money aside in my holding funds. I created a category called overage credit. And so I will set aside $28.20, which is one of those 2-month credits. That's how much it is, just in case they come asking for it in the next couple months. I think what I'm going to do is I will keep that money in my savings account under this category, at least until the end of the year, end of 2026, if not the end of my first lease. I think if that much time passes and they don't notice, chances are pretty good that they're not going to notice even after that. And so if we get to those markers, either the end of the year or the end of my lease, and that money is still sitting there, I will probably convert it into some savings goal that I have. By that point, I should have my dog emergency fund set. My 6-month emergency fund should be completed. And then I think the next thing on my list of things to do would be setting aside $3,000 to $5,000 initially for a health, like a my health emergency fund. And so I will probably just convert that to that. So with that, I will go into March. And like I said, instead of setting aside my rent amount in my rent category, I will just do the money in this holding account. I don't yet know exactly what my rent is going to be. I've kind of figured it out in an Excel spreadsheet. I think it's going to be somewhere between 1,700 and 1,800 every month, depending on what my common utilities do. Which my old apartment was just, it was about 1,900. So it's a couple $100 cheaper. Again, I didn't go for the cheapest apartment. I went with the apartment that saved me a little bit, but mainly had the backyard. So I'm going to set $960 aside until I know what my regular rent is going to be, and then I'll just kind of adjust, probably down to like 1,750 or 1,800. So that takes care of March rent, the holding aside. I don't think I'm gonna have to pay anything in rent until I think I'm anticipating in May. So in May I'll have probably about a $1,400 bill. So it'll be a little bit less, but May 1st I will probably have to start paying out of pocket for rent, unless they notice that extra credit before then. The next thing I do is I go to every paycheck items. I have some things that I set aside money for every paycheck. One of those things is rent. We've already taken care of that. The other thing is household consumables. In my last video, I had this filled up. It was $150. I used basically all of that money for cleaning supplies. Not only for the old apartment, but to clean this apartment before I moved in. So when this is not capped at $150, I set aside $25 every paycheck until it's capped. Now that I have a water machine that requires regular refills on the 5-gallon jugs, I'm going to set aside money for refills. I'm going to cap it at $20. I think to fill the 2 5-gallon jugs, it was like $2 or $3, I think, so somewhere around in there. maybe a little bit more. Actually, it was $3.60 to fill those up. So $4 to $5 every time I fill up. So I will cap it at 20, and I will just set aside $5 every paycheck. Actually, I don't need to do that because I've already capped it. I didn't realize that. So I don't need to set any money aside until I do another refill, which will probably, I don't know, a couple weeks maybe. I haven't decided. My dog in the old apartment got filtered water only because my fridge in the old apartment had a water dispenser, a filtered water dispenser, and that's the water that I gave him, and I drank that water as well. If you don't know, Arizona has really, really, really hard water. And so it's not really good for drinking. I prefer not to give it to the dog either. So for the time being, I am filling up my water every day with it, and I'm filling up his water every couple days with the water. So the 5 gallons will go pretty quickly at that rate. And from my research, even those like Brita water filters that you put in the fridge that you can fill with tap, those aren't strong enough to filter out all the sediments and calcium and everything that's in the water out here. So I'm probably just going to stick with the filtered water from Walmart or Kroger for both of us. So that covers all of the 4 walls. Gas, I already have this filled up. I don't remember when I did that, but that's good. I don't need to put money in there. I have a little over or a little under a full tank, so I probably won't need to fill up again until sometime next month. My commute has gotten significantly longer being this far west. My commute where I used to live was 30 to 40 minutes with traffic, 20 to 25 without traffic. Where I'm at now, I'm probably pushing over an hour with traffic. Fortunately, I only have to go into the office once a week. So it's not a significant burden on gas, but it is a longer commute, which means it's going to require more gas. Pet holding, I put $50 in every paycheck up to $200. I set aside $100 for dog food. I order dog food every 3 weeks. So I get paid every 2 weeks, which means I can't do every paycheck because it doesn't span the full time. So the paycheck that comes in immediately following a purchase of dog food, I set aside $100. That way it's already filled up the next time I need to purchase dog food. And then dining out, I set aside $50 every paycheck. And discretionary, I also set aside $50. Next month in March is my first of 3 months this year that I won't be dining out. I didn't know this before I moved out here where I'm at. I'm in a different city. I'm no longer in Phoenix, like Phoenix proper. I'm in a smaller city, and a lot of these smaller cities charge a tax on food. So Phoenix was large enough that their tax base didn't require taxing food, either restaurant food or groceries. So it was a little bit of a savings there. Sales tax in Phoenix was 9.1 combined, like total between state, city, county. My combined tax in the city that I live in now is slightly less. It's 8.8%, but they charge 2% tax on food. So even though it's less combined, it's more, almost a 2% higher tax for groceries and dining out. So not only in the months that I don't do any dining out will I be saving just dining out money, but now I will be saving that extra 2% tax on that. I'm still going to have to pay the 2% tax on groceries. There's no way getting around that. Unfortunately, I live far enough away from a grocery store in Phoenix to make it worth the gas to go into Phoenix to buy my groceries and just bring them back into the city that I live. So I will just eat the extra 1.75 or whatever it is, extra tax to get groceries. So that takes care of my every paycheck items. So now I'm going to go through my every month items for March. So I'm a month ahead, which means my February paychecks fund my March bills. So we'll just go down the line here. Groceries, I'm not going to do anything with. I'll fund that next paycheck. I do need to fund my storage. And if you'll notice, in previous months, and actually ever since I started using YNAB, I used to budget down to the penny. The reason I did that is because I wanted to know exactly when my bill increased, even if it was an increase of a penny. That way I could look into why. It's gotten to the point to where some of my bills are fluctuating over or under. And to avoid that, I've just rounded all of my bills up, all of my targets up to the next dollar to cover any, slight deviations. And I'll just keep an eye on my expense amount to know when the bill goes up based on what the bill amount is in my description here. Internet, I don't have to pay anymore. So my technology fee here at my new apartment is more than I'm used to. It's $165 every month. Whereas in my old apartment, I was paying $50. However, it's justified and actually it saves me money because it covers cable. So I get a cable package, a pretty decent cable package actually, almost 200 channels through DirecTV. And it also covers 1 gigabyte high-speed internet. So for cable, I was paying $125 for Fubo TV in my old apartment. And for internet, for 1 gigabyte internet speeds, I was paying $90. So those two bills alone were more combined than my technology fee that covers both of those bills plus my thermostat and security system here. So I don't have any more internet bills coming due. So I can hide that. I no longer need that. Power, I'm going to set aside $110. This is an old target that I've never really followed. However, out where I live now, it's a different service provider for power. The power company that I used to have, SRP, was a not-for-profit, publicly funded utilities company. And so prices were pretty regulated. However, the new company that I'm forced to have to get my power through is a for-profit, not publicly funded, and doesn't have a publicly elected board, which means they can charge whatever the hell they want. So there have been a lot of reports of the company that I'm now having to pay overcharging by 40 or 50% compared to the other company that provides utilities. And so I'm anticipating my utility bills being much higher than what I'm used to be, what they used to be. So until I know what those bills are going to be on a regular basis, I'm just going to set aside $110. Based on what they told me, that should cover the highest bill, between $120 and $140, I think. I'm in the winter, so our consumption of power is much less than that in the summer. So I think 110 for the next couple months will give me enough time to kind of see what my power bills are going to be. 75 for my phone. And again, I think in the next couple months, this might go closer to 100, maybe 110 when I get my new phone, depending on which one I get. So that covers my 4 walls, my car insurance and car registration will fund those. My short-term sinking funds, all of those will get funded. My rent insurance, this used to be an annual bill that I paid out of my own pocket. Like I pay it outside of my regular rent and everything. My renter's insurance with my new apartment is wrapped in my rent. So I no longer need this line item here. I just recently paid the 220 renewal on that. And so I've canceled that policy. I am anticipating a refund of $160, give or take a few dollars. That will be coming my way in the next couple weeks. So, similar to my internet, I'm going to hide that. My subscriptions, all of these I'm going to fund. So here's the thing. I'm going to fund them, but most of my bills are the same day. So I try to keep my bills the same day. Before I was a month ahead, I had some bills on the 1st and some bills on the 15th, which is why some of my bills are due on the 1st and some of them are due kind of in the middle of the month. I did that to kind of spread them out, make it easier for me to pay my bills without having all of them all at once. Again, I'm a month ahead, so that doesn't matter anymore. So I think what I'm gonna do is, because I have cable, which means I have TV to watch at least for the next month. I'm considering canceling all of my subscriptions for Ring, Netflix, Spotify, YouTube Premium, and probably my VPN. And then starting them back up on March 1st. That way, the billing cycles will be the first of the month with all of my other bills. That way, all of my bills, I think most of my bills will be on the first of the month, with the exception of some of them. I haven't fully committed to that, but I do like having all of my bills paid in the beginning of the month. That way I can just not have to pay anything the rest of the month. And I know exactly how much money I have left over to do extra things with. But so TBD on that. But for now, I am going to fund all of them as if I'm going to pay them in a couple days. Shots for the dog. I'm going to assign grooming. I don't have any plans on getting him groomed after the last time I groomed him, and then having to deal with $3,000 worth of vet bills because of it. I'm not too keen on the idea of getting him groomed anytime soon. So that takes care of every month items. So now I'm just going to do a full sweep and see what I have. So that's fine, that's fine. All of that is good. All of this is good. All of those are good. All of those are good. Let's see. All of these are good. All of these are good. Oh, speaking of clothing, so in my last video, I talked about getting a jacket. I funded a category, $200. And finding the right jacket was an ordeal. I drove around all over Phoenix for 4 hours. I went to 5 different stores to find the perfect jacket. Dick's Sporting Goods was the last place I went because I didn't think that they would have what I was looking for. On a whim, I went in. I ended up finding the exact jacket I was looking for. And it was on a rack with a 40% off sign. I immediately picked it up. They only had one in the size that I needed. I wear a small, and actually I probably could have, I don't even know if they have an extra small in this. I might look to see, but the last remaining small. And so I got it. Original price was $95. I got up to the counter, and it turns out the sign was not for the item. that was directly under it, which was the jacket that I got. And that wasn't the only one there. They had a whole slew of them in different colors. So I took a picture of the sign and they gave me the 40% off because they put the sign there. And so I got that jacket for like 50 or $60. Um, and so that's where a lot of the extra money that I used to get this this TV stand for came from, the excess money that I had because I set aside $200. So I moved that into the clothing category for last month. I don't need anything there. All of this is fine. No fees, no miscellaneous. So that means I have $168.84 to fund. My current goal is $3,000 for my starter pet emergency fund. As you can see, I have $2,000 in there. I'm just under $1,000 left. I don't think I'm going to use this money for that, and here's why. I'm anticipating on getting my full refundable security deposit back from my old apartment. And that I think was like $860. So that will cover the majority of this. There might be $120, $130 left over. I have already filed my taxes. I've already gotten my state and federal income tax. But in the mail, I received a 1098-T form from my school that I was going to earlier last year. I forgot that you could deduct from your taxes tuition paid. And when I figured out what that credit would be, given the tuition that I paid, it's almost $2,000. So at the end of this month, when the window opens up, I'm going to amend my federal tax return. I'm going to add that tuition into my tax filing to get that credit. And that means I will be getting just under $2,000. I should be getting just under $2,000 in additional tax refund on top of the $275 that I got for federal a couple weeks ago. I will more than likely use that money to fill the gap. And then the rest of that tax refund, I will probably throw in whatever I have left for my overage on my rent credit. And then if I have anything else after that, I will probably start my income replacement 6-month emergency fund, get that up to 6 month. I'm anticipating having that done, if all goes to plan, probably sometime this summer. August, September, I think. Barring any catastrophic things that happen, I should have my 6-month emergency fund fully funded sometime this summer, which means the last couple months, I will have to, more than likely, I'll probably just do my health emergency fund and put away whatever I can there. So I'm going to put this $168 $7.84 in my rent holding, the overage. And actually, where did I put it? I put it here. So I'm going to throw that money into here because I want to get this 2820 set aside as quickly as I can in case they come asking for it in the next couple months. That way I can just, use it. If I don't set it aside in the next couple months, it's going to be really difficult for me to fund it while also funding actual rent. So while I don't have actual rent, I'm going to use that time to get this overage credit set aside. So that means after I get my second paycheck of this month, I will have just under 2,100 set aside, which means I'll have about 700 and some change to figure out in March where that money is going to come from. So yeah, we'll do that. So yeah, that is gonna take us to the end of this video. Definitely a longer video than normal, just because I've had a lot of moving parts with my move and just kind of moving things around in my budget and just not really doing a very good job keeping track of that mentally, and then going through that on video. So with that said, I will see you in the next video.